you might be getting into the boundaries of TMS in my mind. So now, depending upon how ad hoc this workflow is, but you may have overcreated this. So you might want to dig a little deeper overall in terms of what is happening, and can maybe some of the TMS solutions that they have, they can provide slightly more formalized processes than managing this inside a table. How ad hoc they are going to be, I think those are going to be the questions that you should be asking, whether this is going to be the right fit or not.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. And if you are joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series, for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We review one vendor or the solution. And for today, we have a very interesting solution. It's Airtable. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my brief intro. Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP, CRM, and digital transformation consulting firm. On that note, Dave, do you want to go next?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Sam. Hey, everybody. My name is Dave Chrysler, and I own an operations consulting business, working with leaders to help them optimize their operations and to drive additional profitability through all kinds of fun stuff. And come to you with more than 25 years of doing this, which has included one or two system implementations along the way. And excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Profitability is always fun, Dave. Thanks for being here.
So many ways to get there, right?
So many ways to get there. Just one way is going to be the most optimal, I guess. Okay, Andy, do you want to go next?
Sure. What the heck? I'm last one on the row here anyway, so my name's Andy.
Best for the last.
Best for last, or worst. My name's Andy Pratico. I've been involved in ERP software all my life. I've worked all over U.S., all over Canada, thousands of manufacturers in my career, and I have a published book on it's called How to Select Your ERP Without Losing Your Mind to Your Job, which is a classic title. Dave, I just have a quick
dilemma.
Classic dilemma, yes. I just have a quick question for you, Dave. You mentioned you've implemented a few different ERPs. Which ones have you implemented?
Most of my firsthand experiences with Oracle.
Wow, Fusion, Oracle Fusion?
JD Edwards.
Oh, JD Edwards. Oh, okay. So huge projects.
Yeah.
Thank you. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah, Dave is super seasoned with his experience. There's no question about that. But I mean, by the way, I'm losing my mind here with 500 reviews that we have done as part of this series. I cannot keep up anymore, I guess. I don't know about you guys, how you feel, but this is going to be a very interesting one. So Airtable, and Andy, you were there as part of Monday.com. So this is part of the similar sort of series. For this year, we have reviewed a lot of different HCM systems, as well as a lot of different CRM systems. I would say the Monday.com category, I don't know where you would put that. They probably fall a lot more in your bucket, Dave, which is going to be a lot more process improvement. It's going to be a lot more operations, like the real operations, not the ERP operations. Both could be operations, but there are going to be disconnected states as well, which are going to be equally important for companies. In some cases, there are going to be a lot of ad hoc needs for those. These solutions are especially powerful. One of the key differentiator between in Monday.com, Smartsheet, and Airtable, they are sort of the siblings, I would say. Overall, from the competitive landscape perspective, the kind of capabilities that they are offering. Sometimes the reason why these three solutions exist is because they are going to be part of the major private equity, and everybody's trying to grab the piece of the pie of the new market, I guess, a new category. So that's why you have exactly duplicate solutions sometimes. Okay, and Airtable, Monday.com, they are fairly comparable, duplicate, I would say, but there are some layers where they have some differentiation, and that's exactly what we are going to talk about today. So overarching position, I would say, from the Airtable perspective, is going to be the very similar to your Monday.com, which is your collaborative project management. And Dave, since you missed the last one on Monday.com, this is the new category recognized by Gartner. I mean, they use these terms as well. And they had to come up with a new category because it didn't exist before.
Yeah.
So they are calling this as collaborative project management. They have also used the term called adaptive project management, which in my mind is, personally speaking, I mean, it's a fairly accurate representation of what these guys are trying to do, which is a very interesting category. And obviously it has become really big. Just I'll give you some more insights, Dave. Monday.com, I think last week, Andy, I don't know whether you remember this or not. I think they have a run rate of what, $1 billion, I guess, in terms of ARR. So that's how big this is. I don't know how many ERP vendors you have. They are still, like, they have been operating for the last 60 years and they are struggling to reach to $1 billion point. And these guys are already there. Can you believe this? And they have been
Crazy.
for literally 5 years. And I'm telling you, they are literally spreadsheet. That's what they
Yeah.
are. Just the better spreadsheet is what it is. To be completely honest, that's their capability. Yes, they have a lot more layers. It's a better spreadsheet, but fundamentally speaking, it is meant to be a spreadsheet. That's what it is.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's incredible. But, I mean, the power of marketing, right? I mean, it's all about how you're positioning your solution and who you're ultimately tapping into that, that's going to drive that.
So just to be fair with them, Dave, I would not say this is purely marketing and it's only hype. There is a real value, to be completely honest, okay? And those are the industries that we are going to touch on. So there are certain industries, for example, let's say if you look at media, entertainment, where you have to make a movie, and while making a movie, I don't know a director that is going to use an ERP system. Maybe Andy can persuade them. But that's not going to happen. So traditionally, I mean, they were using either spreadsheets, or Google made a lot of difference because, and that's why if you look at media, entertainment, marketing agencies, creative firms, to some extent telco, they had a lot of exposure to these Google Sheets, and that's where Google had a lot more adoption. So to be completely honest, the major disruption that is a vendor is getting, that's actually Google.
Yeah.
They are getting hate from all aspects of life. And again, the market share that these guys are able to either create or steal, it's going to go from either Microsoft or Google. That's the replacement that they have. Or the traditional project management category, which is going to be your Jiras and Asanas of the world. There were a bunch of them, some of them legacy. So those are the tools that are being replaced here. Some of the other tools that were slightly more collaborative in nature, they were very hard to build in general in the past. For example, let's say if you look at portal technologies, they were very expensive, very clunky. Nobody used them. The collaboration was not happening because they were so hard to use. But now that is what is becoming mainstream, even the SME space now. You have much superior collaboration with clients, especially if you're going to be slightly more service-centric industries. That's where you're going to find a lot of value, from the customer experience perspective. So again, they're creating a very new category. It's a very new market. Now, this is going to be, what is that called? The next standard overall from the customer experience perspective. And these categories are going to grow. Obviously, the enterprises are going to get very similar experience as well. And that's where the likes of Microsoft Power Platform, ServiceNow, all of these companies are trying to do very similar things as well. And that's why they are super hot right now in the market. So overarchingly speaking, the position that we have is very similar as Monday.com, which is your collaborative project management. They are really designed for those ad hoc workflow automation, meaning from the operations perspective, I would say 80% of the projects that you are going to do, they are going to be part of your core offering. When you have the core offering, that's where your ERP, CRM, transactional system flow are going to be important. But then you also have the 20-30%, okay, which is purely ad hoc. Marketing department was always ad hoc. They were not sort of part of the core transactions, core offering, core operations. So how do they manage their workflow, right? a lot of things that are happening in the HR world, it was always sort of disconnected even today. I mean, they don't need to be integrated with the core operations as such, right? So they had a lot more siloed operations, and that's where we are seeing a lot more adoption of these tools in general. The forums is another differentiator that these tools have, and that's what we just during Monday.com as well, that now you are able to accept a lot of inputs from your customers, vendors, collaborators, volunteers, sponsors, how many ever different personas you have. You can gather a lot of data, you can validate, you can build workflows, you can say put in a spreadsheet, which is going to be slightly more disconnected model. You can tie all of these spreadsheets just like a pivot table, and you can do reporting as well, slightly richer, I would say. But at the end of the day, the underlying model is very loose and very spreadsheet like. So again, they are designed for very, 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 very ad hoc workflows in general. The other things that you're going to see here is going to be the overall perspectives. They are really good at presenting the same data in different formats. And this all became mainstream, I would say, with tools like Trello, which was very mainstream in the marketing world just because you had the Kanban board. It was really easy for teams to follow, manage their tasks, workflow, especially the ones that are not going to have as rigid a structure. So now I don't know how many companies are really going to use Trello. So that's what is sort of being disrupted here with these tools. These are going to be a lot easier, I would say, and they are going to be much richer as well. Trello sort of lost their charm when it was Trello. They were really good, but then when they got acquired by Atlassian, now the whole security flow is very Microsoft-like. So they don't have the same coolness factor, and I don't know which companies are going to acquire these companies. Monday.com, obviously, they are bigger, so I don't know if they are going to become their own enterprise software company, the way Salesforce has become, just because of their revenue and market share. That's a possibility, but it's a very strong possibility that either Microsoft or Google is going to acquire them, and once they acquire, then it would be a different scenario, and there is a possibility that Atlassian may be able to acquire these companies as well. So that's probably going to be a exit strategy for these companies. So very, very, very interesting play overall and the space, and it is only going to grow, I would say, from the tool perspective. So the biggest differentiator between Airtable as well as Monday.com is going to be that Monday.com is a lot more focused in PMO organizations, project management, project managers. That's where Monday.com's major focus is. With Airtable, I would say this is more of the creative marketing. They were always very focused on that community. So it's going to hang out in a lot of systems. For example, Figmas of the world, the designers are using Figma, they are probably going to use Airtable. So that's the kind of community that these guys are targeting, and the use cases are going to be heavily influenced by that as well. And we are going to see that flavor in their case studies as well. So again, I think we have already touched on the background from the competition perspective. The competition is very, 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 very similar. So CRM vendors, Salesforce, HubSpot of the world, Creatio, Zoho, they are the ones that are getting some hit, I would say, overall in terms of the use cases. But again, it is not designed for those workflow-centric use cases or the transactional use cases. If you were to create this on top of your Airtable Monday.com, then you are looking at a lot of effort. And even then, you might have challenges because then you are creating broken processes, and you are probably going to grow your technical backlog. So if you're looking for any sort of control, then you need to go for slightly more formalized, tools, formalized that are going to have the baked formalized processes, whether this is going to be more from the CRM perspective, project management perspective. The project management categories that are being disrupted here are going to be Jira's, Asana's of the world, the Trello's of the world, MS Projects, of the world. I don't know how many companies are going to use MS Project anymore. Somebody was claiming that, MS Project is still very widely used, and they probably have the highest market share. Maybe, but that's what is being disrupted here, because I'm telling you, like Airtable, once you start using it, you won't like MS Project because you are not going to get the same collaboration. And the only reason why companies switched to tools like Google Suite is because of that collaboration aspect. I think that was their biggest differentiator, and the security was much lighter compared to bloatedness of Microsoft. So that's so the similar thing is going to happen here as well. So I think companies still need to use Outlook and the whole Microsoft and Google Suite, but there is a strong possibility that these guys end up creating their emails as well, the way Zoho is operating. which is slightly different business model. So it's going to be very interesting in terms of what is going to be the next. The next category that these companies are disrupting is the traditional BI tools, because it's easy to disrupt. So these guys are doing that as well, just because they already have the data sources, the integration layers. So this is going to be far richer, far stronger BI. So Power BI is probably going to be one of the tools that is probably going to be disrupted because of these tools. So the real go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say, so you think that this is going to disrupt the Power BI popularity?
Yeah, the Power BI, any of the traditional BI tools, I would think that they are going to be easy to be disrupted by these tools. In fact, I mean, we saw this trend with Monday.com as well, that initially when they started, they actually wanted to start as more of the BI tool because it's easy category to attack, to be completely honest. Okay.
Sure.
But then they sort of transitioned into project management because that's where everybody started using. They didn't even know, I guess, I mean, who was going to use them when they started. They simply wanted to create a better spreadsheet, but they found a lot more use cases in project management, I guess. So that's how they evolved. But BI category, in my mind, I mean, they have a lot of use cases. It makes sense for these tools to become the next BI layer, especially that are going to be around the ad hoc project management. So they can do ad hoc data flows, ad hoc project management, plus a lot of use cases from the BI perspective. They're going to be easy to accommodate in my mind.
How is this tool for cross project resources? Does it talk to multiple projects at the same time?
So again, those are the use cases that you are going to find real difficulty in. So it is not designed for the control, the data integrity. Sure, you can link a couple of cells just the way you can do probably in Excel. This is going to be slightly richer, I would say. In some cases, Excel is going to be richer. In some cases, this is going to be richer. But again, it's not designed for those controlled workflows or the workflows that are going to be slightly more traceable. So purely from the project management perspective, if you're looking for pure collaboration, operational aspect of the project management, it's going to be easier. Okay. But when you look into the financial aspect of project management, it's going to be a nightmare with these tools. So they are not designed for that. But let's say if you look at traditional technology organizations, okay, the way they manage their projects, like if you talk to developers and designers and you started talking about dollars, they just don't like it. They don't appreciate those conversations. Okay. So you need to decouple these states. So, you have the operational aspect. If they fill the timesheet, that's a big deal. Generally, companies find trouble in getting the engineers, the designers, the developers, especially if they are going to have a lot of cloud. They just don't like the overhead. They simply want to focus on work, and that is the trend that we see in the engineering space as well, right, Andy? I think you have seen that okay, convincing them is very, very, very hard. So this is the core challenge. So that's why what the companies do is, especially if talent is going to be a big deal for them, that they need to retain the talent, and the talent is not willing to take on the responsibility for project management. So they are going to have a lot of project managers, and these guys are going to be primarily responsible for their workflow, and the project managers are going to simply manage the operational aspect, and then later on they need to do costing, accounting, whatever. That's all happening in the back end. So that's how I would say the large majority of non-ERP industries, that's how they operate in general. They don't care for the cost. They don't care for the financials. Generally, financials are managed in some sort of FP&A tool, the analysis tool. That's where they are sort of, CFOs are getting the insights. Okay, what's the cost? Without telling these guys, okay, what's the cost of these projects? And in some cases, I mean, there are going to be confidentiality issues as well, because if you tell them everything from the project management perspective, they are probably going to ask for higher salaries. So that's also a so in some cases, I mean, that's going to be a very sensitive topic. But in general, in manufacturing, construction, the project managers are very comfortable managing the cost side of things. Their compensation are structured. They have variable compensation related to the cost, so they are very comfortable managing P&L. I'm pretty sure, Dave, you can probably relate with that in your industries, the one that you have practiced in. I mean, you are supposed to have knowledge of P&L, right?
Yep, supposed to.
Exactly. Not everybody has that. Yeah, so very interesting conversation. So let's keep going here. So overall, from the competitors' perspective, Smartsheet is probably going to be the closest competitor. Monday.com is going to be the closest competitor. ClickUp and Notion, they are slightly different. Okay, they are sort of in between. They are not as fluid as Monday.com Airtable, but they are not as rigid as your Jira and Asana, and that's why they are equally powerful as well. So different category, but they are attacking the very similar market, very similar market. And they all have, like, everybody has, like, their valuation start from $1 billion, I guess. It's
Bar.
crazy good. Yeah. So now, then we have the workflow automation platforms such as your MS Power Platform, ServiceNow, BoomyFlow. And BoomyFlow, I don't know how adopted that is, I guess. They wanted to get into this market, but I don't know how successful they are. And then you have some of these smaller vendors such as your Rapid, etc. They are doing some work as well. But for the mainstream vendors, MS Power Platform is probably going to be, and ServiceNow. Those are trying to attack the enterprise-centric workflows that are going to be slightly more the scenarios that you are mentioning, Andy, which is going to be, cross visibility in the PMO organization where you want the cross connectivity of databases, etc.
Right.
If you want that, if you want best of both worlds, that's where ServiceNow and MS Power Platform is probably going to be a better fit. And then when you look at the industries, the industries where you are going to find the major adoption of Airtable is probably going to be media, tech, telco, not-for-profit, marketing agencies, and entertainment, compared to Monday.com, which is slightly different focus overall in terms of the industries. I'll keep going here unless you have any comments. So here, some figures, and again, their funding has been what, $1.36 billion total funding to date, and I would say they literally are in the business for now. I would say maybe 5-6 years. Monday.com started in 2010. They started very late, and they already have this much funding. Very successful. Okay, and they already have 450,000 logos. Can you believe this? So it's a very consumerized business model. That's why they are becoming so successful. So here we have some of the use cases, coming from their website. We have captured some of these screenshot. So here, this is the example of a filmmaker. He organizes nearly every aspect of his film productions, from actors to scenes to shots, equipment to location expenses, all in Airtable. And guys, it'll make sense to manage that kind of workflow. When you are doing keynote speeches, nobody's going to do them inside ERP. Okay. It doesn't work that way. Okay. So this is really designed for that creator community. Okay. A residential building company, these are some of the use cases example that they have mentioned. Building company uses Airtable to coordinate between, now there is a little overlap here. So they are using this as more of the field service tool. That's probably a stretch. I would say that's going to be too much for something like this to handle. But seems like this might be either a smaller company, or they simply wanted to go for this because they didn't like anything else, and that could be the reason why they might be using it. So they are saying internal staff support request and molding Airtable into a workflow that perfectly matches the way they actually run their business. So in most cases, they didn't want to change their process. They didn't want to change. They wanted something that could fit in the way they are operating. Again, you can go only so far with that state. Maybe you are small and maybe you don't care for the operational efficiency, and that's okay. And that could be the reason why you would be, but this is definitely a stretch in terms of the use case.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, Sam, with the kind of the ease of use that so many of these tools, like, Airtable's a great example of this, but oftentimes what I'll see is, companies will get in the mindset of, we're different, we're special, and so they look for a solution that allows extreme flexibility and customization. And while that's great in a lot of cases, what can happen with how easy it is to build in a tool like this is that you can get yourself in a situation where, just like homegrown software of the 80s and 90s, right? You've created this complex environment that a very few people within your organization know how to maintain, know how to update. And, ultimately you kind of paint yourself back into a very similar corner, except for now it's native, in the cloud, because they've created a tool that is so easy to customize and build. It's very challenging to kind of understand where the bounds of those things should be and how those tools should fit within the other, pieces of tech that you've got throughout your infrastructure. So just a bit of cautionary tale for people out there.
Could not agree more. And I think, and I don't know how much people know how much they are spending in cloud, to be completely honest, because this is actually going from departmental budget. So sometimes in 2024, companies don't even know what is their actual IT spend, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only reason why these guys have billions and billions of dollars in ARR is because companies are willing to pay. So somebody's paying their bills. So who's paying their bills? So the appetite has increased overall in terms of the spend. And, 20 years back, I mean, everything was sort of centrally controlled. I don't care whether finance controls it or IT controls it, but you had at least some control. Now you don't have any control. Okay, anybody can buy whatever they want, whatever, and
Well,
that will change, I guess, Dave. I don't know what do you think about that.
no, I totally agree. To that point, right? Especially in larger organizations, what's interesting is that these subscriptions are so inexpensive that they fall in everybody's budget, right? So the lack of oversight is tremendous, especially when you start to add, it's a different conversation when you've got 10 employees versus 10,000 employees, right? And you've got all of those siloed departments, teams, workflows, and so on. And again, I think that contributes to the fact that the valuations are what they are because, people recognize that, right? They recognize that, hey, for $30 a month or whatever the number happens to be, right? I could get, one person, 10 people, whatever it is. And so now all of a sudden it doesn't matter what we have from a IT infrastructure standpoint. This tool is what I really want to use, or my team really wants to use, or, my region really wants to use. And so it very quickly compounds, throughout an organization.
Could not agree more. Great comments. And I think one of these days, I think companies are going to look at their overarching SaaS spend, which is extremely, extremely high right now, to be completely honest. The cloud spend is very high as well. To be across the companies, across industries, and companies are obviously struggling for profitability, but they don't know that they are paying a lot. I don't know who's going to drive that, but I mean, that's probably going to happen, one of these days.
Yeah. There's an audit. There's an audit in your future.
Hopefully somebody wakes up. Hopefully CFOs know that they have better ways of saving money. Okay, so I'll keep going here. So we have some more use cases. We have a Scholar Match, an innovative online platform founded by writer, Dave. How would you pronounce his last name? Eggers. Okay. To connect high school students with college scholarships and support services. So this is a very unique not-for-profit, and not-for-profit in general, they have very unique structure. In their processes are completely ad hoc. So traditional software, they've never worked for needs of not-for-profit, even though they are going to argue that they are probably simpler than for-profit companies. But in general, in my personal experience, their processes tend to be much more complex because they don't have any sort of governing structure where they want to focus on. So they become very unique in general across different not-for-profit. And that's why companies like Salesforce, they were very, very, very successful in not-for-profit public sector, because each company was very unique and they required a lot more customizability. And that's why the CRM vendors were winning a lot of business. Now that's what is handled by these tools. So they are saying begin by using Airtable to track their donors and grant applications. Guys, this is probably going to be a stretch, to be completely honest, for an application like this. If you're very small not-for-profit, you can probably do that, but you would require a real, CRM to be able to track donors and grant applications. That's a very complex functionality. Don't try to build that inside Airtable. It's a big stretch, big stretch. You are never going to find, what you are looking for. Maybe you can get started. You can probably mimic your processes, but you would probably need a real not-for-profit CRM because this is not designed for that. This is probably a stretch. But have grown to manage everything that they care about in Airtable, which is again a big stretch. Volunteers, programs, events. But in this as well, you're going to have some of the ad hoc process that are going to be the right candidates for tools like Airtable. But then the major processes you still need to manage inside a transaction system, which is going to be a CRM, ERP, wherever you are managing. So again, this is a stretch.
That's a perfect example of what I was trying to articulate, though, Sam. I mean, it seems so intuitive and it seems so simple. Hey, why don't we it's just one more table. Why don't we track this in there? And then we can link those together. But there's some core functionality. To your point, there's core functionality that exists in some of these best-in-class tools already. Why would you spend the dollars to recreate something and have to maintain it, right? People don't think about that aspect of it, but you build something custom, you've got to maintain that thing through transition, through employee turnover, all of the such. versus implementing a best in breed solution. It's got the core functionality. It's got a bunch of other things on top of that, and you don't have to worry about maintaining it.
Could not agree more. Great comments, Dave. So I'll keep going here unless you guys have any other follow-ups there. What happened? And StreamYard is acting a little weird today. It jumped. Okay, so I think we are on the next one. So here, this slide has a lot of different stories as well. So we'll touch on those. So here, these are descriptions of some of the functionality. I think we have analyzed several news stories over the period of time, and the screenshots are coming from there. So here they are talking about very specific feature sets. So they are talking about embeddable views. Feature expands the usefulness of your Airtable content by making it shareable in public setting. I would say these views are going to be available with Monday.com as well. I don't think there is anything unique about that. Maybe it was unique in 2015. It's a very similar functionality where you are simply trying to embed those tables that you are creating inside Airtable in a web page, or you are sharing, collaborating with a lot of different vendors or customers. So that is very easy functionality that is very easy to build. And these are some of the use cases that you can easily accommodate inside tools like Airtable. They are saying even as you continue to add to it and change it over time. So again, the portal-like functionality where I'm making changes here, it's available for vendors, customers. Those are very easy to build in tools such as this. Airtable allows you to embed a view of your Airtables, making it easy to display beautiful and interactive content. You stay in full control of what's in from public view, and any changes you make are immediately updated as well. Again, this is very standard collaboration functionality that is there in most tools that are designed for slightly more collaborative project management, which is going to be your Monday.com Smartsheet. That's probably going to be available in your ClickUp, as well as Notion as well. The traditional project management software are probably not going to have this. We have a use case here. A couple planning a wedding can use this feature to share an interactive list of their venue ideas on their blog, complete with neatly formatted location and price. Again, I mean, this is used by individuals as well. Very similar play as your Google Suite or Microsoft. So it's not just the businesses that are using the tools are so easy that even individuals can use that. And that's why they have such higher adoption as well as ARR as well. Then we are talking about time changes are available to your table. So when the couple decides to remove some of the venue options, and they are simply talking about different venue options from their Airtable list, it's instantly updated on the blog embed. So again, they are talking about the real-time changes on any of the options that you don't want to display to your customers, etc. So again, that's very easy to accommodate. They are talking about Airtable is a modern database, and database is probably the right term, except it is not a database. It is not meant to be a database. Okay, it is a spreadsheet, so I'll call them out on that. It's a modern database created for everyone. In fact, they like to talk about, Monday.com has used a term called schema-less database. Okay, meaning it does not have any structure, which is supposed to be, Dave, you are laughing on this, but it is supposed to be the new thing that a database can be schema-less, but when you have the schema-less database, that means you don't have any control. You have wild west. I mean, you can enforce those rules from your service layer perspective or from the UI, but as such here, there is nothing, no traffic rules. But I mean, that does provide some flexibility overall from the design perspective. So you need to figure out, okay, what is the use case? Yeah, if you are doing a bunch of social media likes and comments, who cares if you lose one like or comment? Nobody cares. Okay, but if you lose $1, my books are not going to balance. So there is a difference. And it gives people the simplicity of a spreadsheet, tools for team collaboration, and a seamless mobile experience. The only reason why you have the simplicity of a spreadsheet, because it's a spreadsheet. It's supposed to be a spreadsheet. Okay. Anything else? I don't have any other points that I want to touch on here unless you guys have any comments. Okay. I'll go to the next one. Now, they have a concept called Airtable Universe. And Universe, again, these guys are really good at coining new terms for the feature sets, but for the most part, what they are doing is they are sort of creating a pod. And I don't know whether you are familiar with a term called pod. Dave, you probably are familiar with that. So these are very small communities where you have to share a bunch of data. You have to share a bunch of interests. In fact, I mean, Salesforce, when they acquired Slack, we didn't know what they were going to do with Slack, but they are probably going to do this as well. Okay, that's why they are getting into the whole project management piece, because these companies are so hot. So you are going to see very similar flavors with Slack as well, but the only difference is going to be that Slack is also a communication platform. So you are going to see much more power overall from Slack, Salesforce perspective, because these tools are really powerful. And then you combine that with Slack, and then BI, obviously it's very powerful. And then AI, by the way, that's where you're going to get a lot of data, right? So it's going to become really powerful overall the way this space is evolving. But overall, the concept of universe is to create very small parts for very small community, whether you are planning for a wedding or you have community related to your customers, and you are sharing bunch of instructions, whatever you need to do. So for example, let's say if you are in the industry such as your trade show planning, for those it could be a great, because for each event you are kind of creating a pod, and then you are decommissioning that because you don't want to share whatever you had done with the previous trade show. So all of those legacy software categories, they are probably going to be outdated in the future. I'll keep going here unless you guys have any other comments. So this is another piece of functionality, and they have used a term called blocks. Okay, and blocks, and I think this is going to be slightly more unique to Airtable. I don't know if Monday.com has this, to be completely honest. So here, and again, the reason for this is because this is designed for slightly more creative workflows. So let's say if you want to create sort of the photo tagging app. I mean, back in the days, if you had to create this website, just if you are a photographer, okay, you need to spend a lot on a developer, on a designer, to be able to maintain that. You need to tag your photos, you need to do all of that. Now that can be done very easily with tools such as this. So that's where the major differentiator is. So I think the blocks, what they are trying to do, if you need to tag any sort of assets, pictures, photos, etc., especially for content creators, that's where they are going to get a real power. And here they are talking about a use case that they are using a vision block during the most recent New York Fashion Week to analyze and automatically tag hundreds of photos taken and posted on Instagram by the influencers with whom they work. So you have a little correlation between your photos with your influencers, a little workflow that you have to manage with the influencers, because unless you are in the influencer management business, there's probably going to be a very ad hoc workflow for your company. So these are the use cases where this is really powerful. Then they have some more comments here. The power of the automated tagging functionality allows them to quickly capture key information about each lost item, color type, brand, etc., and then surface it in real time at the event site to reconnect concert goers. And again, this is all the whole trade show industry. In fact, I would argue that probably print industry was very manual, manually operated on spreadsheets for these workflows, etc. Dave, I don't know whether you can relate with that or not. So that's what is being disrupted here, because they are able to find now a software that really works for their workflow, that is going to provide them the flexibility, because they never appreciated formalized processes. Then you also have here they are talking about what is that, Thumbtack. One blog page designer helped to automate an extremely time-sensitive manual process, creating labels for each team member's lunch, and that detailed ingredients and allergies and more. And again, in the not-for-profit school public sector, you're going to have a lot of scenarios just to manage your students, teachers, etc. Now those scenarios traditionally they were maintained inside oracles of the world. You don't have to do that now. You can do that easily in these tools, while using the ERP for the main operational process. So this is meant to be used in conjunction, I would say, for the most part, but just don't overdo it. That is the only trick, as Dave pointed out. Then you have the cruise line business, very similar business as your media, entertainment, uses blocks to manage onboard talent with ease. The world clock block to acknowledge the different time zones in which their ships operate, the timeline block to visualize how different shipboard positions are scheduled across their fleet of 26 ships. Interesting. Now you might be getting into the boundaries of TMS in my mind. Okay, so now depending upon how ad hoc this workflow is, but you may have overcreated this in my mind. So you might want to dig a little deeper overall in terms of what is happening, and can maybe some of the TMS solutions that they have, they can provide slightly more formalized processes than managing this inside Airtable. How ad hoc they are going to be, I think those are going to be the questions that you should be asking, whether this is going to be the right fit or not. Any comments, guys?
I wanted to reread that, Sam. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I think the fact that they're trying to use it as rather than a TMS play, it's almost a HCM replacement, because they're trying to utilize that to probably facilitate their people that the entertainment folks, like the people that do the singing and
Yeah.
dancing and whatnot on the cruise ships, trying to coordinate their schedules. So potentially that'd be I would say probably more of a HCM than a TMS, but just depending on exactly what they're trying to do.
I would say both. So if you read the second paragraph, it says world clock block to acknowledge the different time zones in which their ships operate. So they are actually managing the actual schedule of the ships as well. The timeline block to visualize how different shipboard positions are scheduled. So obviously there was always overlap between the ACM workflows as well as these TMS, but depending upon whether they use TMS for their operations or not. But this could be very small operation that you probably don't need any TMS. So you could be right, and that could be the reason why they might be using Airtable for this.
Yeah.
But great point. I mean, there's definitely overlap between, and that's why we are seeing a lot of overlap between ACM and MES workflows, ACM and supply chain warehouse workflows. You have a lot of overlap in general.
Yeah.
And this is how they create ERPs, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, I don't know if you saw it or not, Sam, but Anders has a great comment that kind of segues into what we were just talking about.
Okay, so I'll read the comment and then probably you guys can provide your commentary. So here Anders is saying, as a powerful cross between a spreadsheet and a database, please comment on how companies should manage a shadow tech, processes and data that are spontaneously built by employees outside the normal, formal, managed flow. So if anything, I mean, this is going to be the shadow tech on a steroid. Nobody cares anymore because it's so easy to create. So I don't know where the governance is. You don't have financial governance. You don't have IT governance. Nobody's watching it. Nobody cares. Nobody's monitoring dollars. So I don't even know if shadow tech matters anymore. But somebody's going to look at this stuff that, okay, there is a lot of waste, to be completely honest. Dave, I don't know if you have any comment there on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's, my first comment is I love the normal, formal, managed flow. That just, rolls right off the tongue. So thanks for that one, Anders. But beyond that, I think the thing that I see most throughout organizations, and it honestly, it doesn't matter what size they are, because I've seen them in, micro SMB businesses, and I've seen them in multinational billion-dollar businesses. And I think the point of Anders' comment and that overlap is the fact that most people are creating these things to solve their problem, right? And what I mean by that is that generally, as you start to go up the leadership chain, the reason that leaders often don't have oversight and insight into these things is because we're not digging down to the root of the problem. And so we kind of, in that leadership side, we kind of say like, hey, solve the problem, get this work done. I don't really want to know about it because we can't, go through the typical channels to manage it. Right. So for me, the first thing is some oversight and insight into what's actually happening, right? Understanding what are we doing to solve these problems and how are we doing that in these ad hoc fashions where, like I said earlier, somebody can, get Airtable or fill in the blank for $20 a month, $30 a month. And if they feel confident they can build some sort of process and workflow to solve their particular issue, whether that be BI related, whether that be, what have you, it's pretty hard to, to understand that unless you are walking around and understanding what your people are doing all day, every day, and seeing where those roadblocks are, because that's the precipice for why people do this to begin with. They are tasked with solving a problem. In their mind, they have no other way to solve that problem. They can't go to IT to have, this widget built, or, they can't wait for a decision to come down from 3 layers of leadership before somebody wants to listen to them. So like, I think that's some of the drivers and some of how to handle it, right? You got to get a handle on what's happening from a process flow perspective. And you gotta, shift the focus back to that and away from, hey, this other tool is, a Band-Aid, something we can do to fix our problem, because it literally is just another Band-Aid, especially when you've got, mature organizations that have really complex tech stacks, right? You've got Airtable, you've got maybe Notion, you've got Smartsheets, you've got all the Microsoft platform implement. Like
You gotta have
you got
everything,
tools,
Dave. Come on.
you got
I mean, you
tools
can't
coming out
miss
of
anything.
coming out of everywhere. You don't need another tool, right? So yeah, I'll get off my soapbox. Great comment, though.
Great point. Great discussion. Loved it. Okay, any other follow-up comments there, guys? No? Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll keep going here. So here, this is also a very interesting example. They have a feature set called Quick Clip. And again, these are like shiny widgets in my mind, okay? But they do help a lot, to be completely honest, okay? So again, for creators, it's very important, right? So I don't know, Andy, how you read or consume information, and Dave, you as well, to be completely honest. But let's say if you are a journalist, right? You need to keep track of a lot of stories. You see something, you kind of like it, but you don't want to disrupt your workflow. You want to refer back. And that's why you had apps such as Pocket, which were really popular in the consumer space because you could literally pocket it and you could review that later when you had time. Otherwise, the whole day you are probably going to spend on social media and you are not going to do any work. So these guys are trying to do very similar things as well, because from the researcher perspective, or from the journalist or media person, or if you're going to be a designer, then you are looking at many different media assets, photos, etc. So how do you save them as part of your workflow? That is going to be part of the whole project management workflow as well. So they are trying to create this whole quick clip concept that they have created, and based on that you can capture anything from the web, and that's actually going to capture pretty much anything that you would need in the future as well, which is going to be your URL, where you found the link, who was the author, etc. So they are capturing a lot of different metadata, which is a useful feature. And again, the only reason why they have this is because this tool is focused on creator designer community, and they would care for this. Then they have some more comments here. So we have the content ideation, and they are talking about you can capture inspirational content in the same place where you manage your creative work, which is the commentary on this particular feature. And they are talking about press tracking as well. They are saying comms professional, and obviously marketing, comms, creatives, journalism, that's where their play is. So they are saying comms professional can use all-in-one template to clip access mentions from all over the web, manage press context, and in general their workflows were primarily maintained on a Google Sheet or maybe Microsoft Word. I mean, that was their world, but now their world is changing because they are able to use something like this. It's very interesting. Then they have some more comments here. So this is one more feature set. It's called scripting block. And they are saying scripting block is a new tool, but it's made for everyone. If you have ever used a macro, so now macro is actually coming back because it was a spreadsheet. Now you need to have macro. So they are coming back, but these macros are going to be far more difficult. In general, with spreadsheet, I don't know how many people can use macro. I mean, I cannot use, to be completely honest. They were very difficult to get off. They were not easy. I mean, you would require some training, some coaching at least. They were not easy unless you were doing a lot of Excel work and you are using it on a daily basis. I mean, business users cannot learn just like this. So this is a similar thing. I mean, at the end of the day, you are programming, right? So you need to be really efficient with that, right? So here, that is what is coming in. So even though they are claiming that it's probably going to be a macro, but you would probably require some sort of consulting help. Even for this, even though the tool is going to be really easy. They are saying you will feel right at home. The scripting block makes it simple to grab a pre-made script. Obviously, they are making it much easier, modify one of many examples, or write something from scratch. But again, you would require a little bit of expertise. It's not going to be as easy. The scripting block is here to help. And most likely, if you can do that, then probably you can code as well. So you can become a developer, I guess. But then you have the custom blocks, gives our customers the ability to create and deploy their own custom front-end applications on top of Airtable. So they are getting into the real custom development space, that those front-end apps are going to be much easier to design. And obviously, that's where the real power is in creating those portals. Traditional portal technologies were really outdated. So now you are able to create those portal technologies. You can integrate, bring data, but again, the scope of this is limited to applications that are not going to require any sort of control traceability underneath. It is designed to be very fluid model. The front end like apps, that you have, they are probably going to be easier to create. Anything related to content is probably going to be a great fit for something like this. They are talking about with custom blocks, development teams spend less time dealing with database setup, authentication, real-time CRUD interfaces, and collaboration, and spend time building unique functionality that fits their needs. Again, guys, let's not talk about database because you are not a database. Okay, you might have CRUD features, but again, you are trying to mimic the process on a spreadsheet, which is a great idea, but again, you are not a database. Then they have some more comments here. Airtable announced today that it raised $270 million in Series E. Obviously, this was, I think this is probably in 2015-16 or maybe later, at a $5.77 billion post money valuation. Can you believe this, guys?
Crazy.
What is valuation of Zendesk or maybe Salesforce right now? It's wild. 6 billion is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Yeah. So then they are talking about development of enterprise grade product cap. Now they are focusing on enterprise grade product capabilities and infrastructure, as well as to grow its teams, across critical functions. Enterprise functionality is great, but are you trying to become service now? Not too sure about that. If that is going to be their play, that would require a lot more IT capabilities. And if they did that, then the product is going to become really complex, and then you would require consulting help. So you need to choose your lane. Right now, they are saying that they are going to develop a lot of those features, but most likely they will not be able to develop those. Okay. We have some more. We can probably do one or two more slides. I don't know how many comments do you have, guys? We have 6 minutes right now. We can probably do one or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Here they are saying we are announcing that Airtable has acquired the team and assets from Base, a no-code data visualization tool. Guys, this is where the BI play is coming. Okay, so even in the BI play, you had the low-code, no-code tool that you could use to be able to build your. So now BI and this space is sort of merging, and I think there is going to be a merge. So most likely either these tools are going to be acquired by the traditional BI companies, because even for BI you require a lot of collaboration, interaction, data sharing, etc. So we might be able to see that. So they are definitely focusing on a lot more BI centric layer, just because they'll be able to do that easily. They are saying countless ways to depict information in charts, graphs, tables, and more, and they are typically only accessible to data scientists and others. And again, don't try to compare yourself with Palantir, because that's not who you are. Okay, don't try to compare yourself with Snowflake, because that's not who you are. So just stay in your lane. And again, this is supposed to be a good front-end BI tool. You might be able to replace Power BI, but that's probably a stretch of what you're able to do. Then they are saying we are announcing that Airtable has acquired Adopt, an AI-powered onboarding platform. So they have a little bit of your ACM play, Dave, to bring additional expertise in AI-driven no-code user activation and product growth. This acquisition, following Airtable's recent acquisitions of Belsa and Airplane, underscores the commitment to empowering enterprises to accelerate their most critical business operations with AI. Everybody is focusing on AI. Everybody has to have that. But what is going to be the real use case is what is going to be a question. Obviously, these guys will be able to do a lot just because they already have money and traction. Okay, do you want to do one more or comments? Comments?
Yeah, whatever you want, Sam.
One more, Sam.
One more? Okay.
Yeah.
I can do one more. Okay, I'll rush through it quickly. So here they are talking about this one. I'm a director of next Dune movie, and I need an app to manage my pre-production before filming begins in January 2025. This generates a preview of custom Airtable application in seconds, allowing teams to reimagine legacy workflows and experiment with new ways of working. And again, great use case, guys. This is the perfect use case for this tool. This is what you should be managing inside this. Then they are saying customers within media, tech, financial services, and retail. These are the industries, and these are the industries which were traditionally very fragmented. Okay, I don't know, any companies in media, tech, financial services, and retail industries that have very connected, operations. They just don't work that way. And I don't know if they are ever going to consolidate their business model. So tools such as this are going to be great fit for these industries, and that's why they are targeting them. In general, they are not very ERP centric industries. ERPs are not going to be applicable for these industries. They are very, very, very different. The only scope of ERP you are going to have in these industries is going to be just the financial reporting, maybe ERP. Even for procurement, they are probably going to use something else. That's pretty much it. So I'll open for comments. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a pretty popular tool amongst a lot of people. It's interesting to see those last couple of slides and them highlighting their enterprise expertise. It's just it's stick to your lane is what you said, and I think that resonates well for me with a tool like this. A lot of really neat feature sets within it, but like everything, it's another tool in the arsenal. You've got to understand what are you trying to do, what inputs do you have, what are you going to do with the outputs, and what problem are you trying to solve. And this is certainly an interesting tool for the right scenario, but they all are. And there's a lot of overlap amongst them, which is why this stuff is so confusing, why we get ourselves into the situations that we do, whether we're talking about, turnover, maintenance, implementation, selection, right? I'll stop there. I could keep going, but I won't.
Any follow-ups?
A little bit. I concur with everything Dave said. As a matter of fact, I was going to say a few of those comments myself, but that's okay. It's interesting. How long has this product been out for?
Right now, maybe 8-9 years, maybe 10.
Yeah, a handful of years,
right.
For sure.
It blows my mind the more I see how many new products keep coming out on a consistent basis. Now, this is 8-9 years, and at 5.77 billion. It's doing pretty good, but so many new, like in the ERP business, same kind of thing. New products coming out all the time. How many of them are going to make it? They're doing the same thing over and over again. Now, the whole comment about staying in your lane, I thought the most interesting comment in this was that the fellow that was working on the new Dune movie coming out next year, and in seconds he had the complete project all planned out. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
So for the right tool, the right product, amazing. However, we all have to be concerned or have an issue or observe when these new products come out what a missionary is. You're all familiar with what a missionary is, right? The first person that went to Africa or whatever the case, they usually get arrows in their back. So that's not what you want. But in this case, I think it's it seems like for the right audience, this product looks amazing.
Yeah, great comment and great example, Andy. Thank you so much for sharing that. So unless you guys have more follow-ups, no? All right, then it's going to be a wrap. That's it for today. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here. Next week, we are going to come back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.